What's up, everybody? So good to see you guys. You know what time it is. Let's get this all ready. Very excited for tonight's show. As always, I have another fantastic guest. I'm very excited. 2 weeks in a row now. I have Australians here. That's kind of funny. Funny, just coincidental. That it wasn't planned that way. It's not like Australian month or anything. All right, let's get this all nicely set up. We got our comments. Everybody come in, say hi. How's everyone doing? You guys ready for some fun? We're going to be talking to an excellent comic book writer, publisher, reviewer today. Of course, you know that's kind of where I got my start as well. So I'm really excited to see how this goes down. And, we're just going to have a really fucking good show. So feel free to hit me up with all your comments, your questions. And let's just all learn something. Our numbers are getting good. You guys are getting up there. How you doing, buddy? Okay, I'm doing a show, so I need you to chill. All right. My boy wants to be on camera because that's just the way of it. You know what they say, man. In Hollywood and whatnot, animals and babies, you just can't work with them. All right, cool. Anyways, I think we're going good. I'm excited. Hey, Glenn, what's going on, man? We can definitely talk off the air. Papa Guasa's hanging out from Ghana. That's awesome. What's going on? Trish, baby, how you doing? Beautiful. That's terrific. We've got a good chunk of people going on here. Sean Keenan, you're going to like this one, buddy. 2 weeks in a row, we got Aussies. All right, cool. You know what, guys? Let's do this. Let's have some fun. I think it's time to start our show. And go.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool. Then I'm going to keep saying fuck because I care.
Hey, Anthony, how you doing, buddy?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Great. Guys, this is Anthony Pollock from the absolutely amazing comic review site, Soda and Telepaths. You guys have been around, you were telling me earlier, for 3 years now?
Yeah, 3 years since January.
Fantastic. You're from Australia, but you guys definitely, you don't seem to be pigeonholed at all. You certainly seem to do everything. You guys do indie, you guys do mainstream. My dog, he's great. You guys do it all. Okay, there he goes. He decided to go for a walk. Now you've got my full attention. Already loved it. I didn't get to mention your shirt, but somebody's already excited by it. So you've dressed for the occasion. Yeah, dude, Canadian bacon's the best.
It's the golden standard. What can I say?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. So, Anthony, why don't you come in? For those of you guys out there, I mentioned it earlier, he is an excellent indie comic reviewer or comic reviewer. He also is a writer and publisher in his own right. So he's going to come out. He's going to talk about his processes, going to talk about reviewing comics probably mostly, but we're going to get into all of it. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to hit us up. To start it off, what is your origin story in comics as far as a fan base? Like you being a fan, where did that all start?
So we're talking like from childhood or?
Basically wherever it starts for you, it's different for everybody. So yeah.
Yeah. So my from childhood, I feel like, to give you a bit of background of sort of Australia in terms of how we sort of, I guess got exposed to comics to start with. Well, you're kind of limited to libraries and things like that. You're limited to libraries, newsagents, those sorts of things. So for me, when I originally started reading comics, it was probably the Phantom comic strips in the middle of a newspaper or something like that. But I guess the sort of comic that I really got into, where I just absolutely had to have everything of, was Tintin. Tintin was a big
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of childish influence. And I was at that age where the cartoon, which was put out by this Canadian company,
Yep.
which just added and I recently rewatched Tintin as well, and it just adds all sorts of strange dynamic that apparently Tintin is Canadian now, and apparently we're supposed to accept that, but that's a whole nother matter entirely. Now,
Poor
it's like-
Hergé is rolling over in his grave.
I guess the excuse was that, sort of French Canadians and things like that. That's probably the part of the reason. So that was sort of my origin story. As I kind of got older and started to actually buy proper floppy comic books, it was Sonic the Hedgehog, believe it or not, and Amazing Spider-Man. So there will always be a place in my heart for any kind of anthropomorphic creatures and their struggles. That's probably, for me, started with probably the Biker Mice from Mars cartoon, the Battletoads cartoon. That's a deep cut. So that, and yeah, it just kind of evolved. Obviously, my tastes have changed over the years. Looking back on sort of Spider-Man and Peter Parker back then, it was a bit of a douchebag, wasn't he? But that's a whole nother matter entirely. Always having 2 or 3 women that he's kind of stringing.
Right.
So but I guess that's kind of 70s to 90s Spider-Man.
Yeah. Now, I've heard several times people say this, and before we even, I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable place, so I'm going to jump into it.
Please do,
all
mate.
on
It
my
makes
own.
for interesting viewing.
You're like, I know, right? Well, I'll start, and if you want to pile on, feel free. But I've heard this a lot, especially when I was asking, what should I ask this reviewer, and I had several people say, well, what makes you feel like you can review? And you know what? Like you said you wanted to get a little uncomfortable, so why don't we start with you if you really want to?
I have a website which I pay for.
I think, you know what? And that was pretty much my answer. What's going on, Don Wynn? Great comic creator himself. And you know what? That is what I was going to say is...
Hey, Don, how are we, buddy?
Oh, Don's such a good dude.
He is a good dude. Yeah. He's,
there's so much kind of expected pretension where it's like, what do you know that you can review my shit? I'm a person who reads. That's why I can review your shit. And that's all it fucking takes. Anybody who has a website or hell, even just a social media account, they can do a review on their account. Any motherfucker can do it. So, and that's not to say that you can't, that you don't do it well or that you don't add something special to it. But it's just, we all need to understand anybody can do this. So, you need to be open to the fact that there is certainly going to be negative and positive. I know that for myself, when I review, it's not that I force myself to do positive reviews. It's that because I only review indies, I only want to talk about books I like. So a lot of people will say, oh, so there's nothing out there that you don't like. Oh, there's a fuck ton of stuff that I don't like. I just don't talk about it. It just doesn't end up on my show at all. So for you, what's kind of your philosophy as far as reviewing and your take on it?
So when I first started getting contributors on board, we sort of die on the sword of, how does this comic book make you feel? What is your emotional truth when it comes to the comic book? And then sort of that's kind of my philosophy to start with, and it kind of builds from that. So there's that. It's also about not just shitting on comics just because you can, just because you want those extra views or clicks or what have you. Because, I mean, trust me, I've tried it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. When it comes to websites and blogging, it just does not work that way. So it's about providing, and especially when we start to get more into the sort of the realm of sort of indie comics and what have you, It's about providing some sort of constructive feedback that writer, that artist, that person can use to grow. Essentially, that's basically the way I look at it. I mean, what really gives me the right to talk about reviews and review things, I feel like if that's your opinion, I feel like you're living in your own pretentious hellscape dimension where there's and you've probably had your head in the sand for the past 30 years or so because internet, and everyone has their opinion now. So for the most part, I don't think I've had any negative feedback. I've certainly not seen any, because I feel like what we do is we give sort of an honest approach. So, I mean, I've had reviewers and contributors of mine that have given negative feedback about a comic book, but then give a positive conclusion, and then it's just kind of like, well, no, guys, this doesn't work. You need to look at why you're giving that negative feedback, and if that's the case, if they didn't achieve something well, whether the art didn't gel with the writing, or the writing just didn't work tonally for the different characters, then let's conclude the review by looking at I guess what they've done well, what they haven't done well, and so that it makes sense logically for us, so that not only so that the creators get something out of it, or the publishers, but also the readers as well. Because in my mind, I want someone to go to sodaandtelepaths.com and read a review of any comic. I don't care what it is. Just read a review and go, okay, that's the synopsis. That's what it's about. This is how the writing made me feel. This is how the art made me feel. There's the conclusion. Great. Okay, I'm going to check this out. And that's sort of my overall philosophy on everything.
Yeah. Have you had comics where you just don't want to talk about them? Like you get it, you look it over, and you're like, I don't think anything I can say is really going to help. This is just rough all the way through.
Yeah. Straight for the jugular, Chuck.
Right? Well, I'm not asking for actual titles, so it's all good.
No, I certainly wouldn't throw someone to the sharks with that. But what I will say to that is the answer is yes. I have always held Soda and Telepaths as a website that covers sci-fi and horror, whether there's different aspects of science fiction or horror on the site, but it needs to have some kind of element of science fiction and horror. Look, with everything that gets emailed to me, like every person that emails me, I will send it out to the contributing team if I personally don't have the time for it. And I'll say, anyone interested in this? Okay, and if no one picks it up, then it's just a case of, and if that creator follows it up, hey, what's going on with my review? It's just a case of, sorry, mate, didn't gel with the contributing team. So that's pretty much it. You're welcome to, send it in again, but sometimes it could be an aspect of time. It can be an aspect of, it could have just been, a pitch that someone just didn't want to read. So yeah, there's been a couple. There's been a couple of, I had one creator that I'm not going to name names that asked, once I reviewed the comic, if he could edit it. So yeah, people like that exist.
Wait, if he could edit the review?
Yeah.
Wow, that's another level right there. Oh shit.
Yeah. I kind of have a no dickheads allowed policy when it comes to, as soon as I start getting very sort of diva-ish kind of requests like that, then I get rid of it, because I just have no way. I just don't have the time for it, to be quite honest with you. And that person will never get reviewed by me, and ever again. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the worst sort of situation I've encountered. There are kind of odd requests. There are kind of odd emails that I get. Donwin, oh man, I need to start. Tell you what you need to do, Don. You need to stop jumping into chats and leaving rubbish comments. That's what you need to do. So yeah, there's it's just the review game, mate. Sometimes there's stuff that we like, sometimes there's stuff that don't like, and at the end of the day, we're people. My contributors are people. If they don't want to read it, that's their prerogative. If I don't want to read that, that's my prerogative. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally feel you there. And as someone who, on this this channel, I also do a fair amount. I've done about, I think, 60 video reviews, and I love doing the comic reviews and what. Yeah, they're fun. For me, I want to read something and then immediately want to go do a video on it. So I'm at the point now, and I don't know about you, but like, I only write a comic or read a comic if I know that immediately I'm going to go and do a video. Like I basically have to have that hour ahead of me, because I want to open myself to the idea that if it is exciting and I am otherwise inspired to do so, that I can just jump in and immediately talk about it organically and excitedly. That's why I call them the raw reviews, because it tends to be kind of off the top of my head, how I feel in the moment. For me, it's just a kind of different take rather than sitting down and sort of, and I feel like a lot of people, especially when they're written, you've had the time to sit and ruminate and let it kind of float over you. And I would rather just get that first hit.
The first punch.
Yeah, exactly. But if it's rough, it's just like, yeah, I can't do that. Look at that. Don bringing more of his shit. Fish, he thinks he might know some of us. What's up, Fish? You know what? That's the great thing about the indie comic universe, is that like you and I
thought you were going to say that's the great thing about Don. There's nothing good about Don. Nothing. Like he writes and draws a comic about a bloody ape delivering pizza and thinks he's fucking Stan Lee.
Well, I mean, he did do that Punisher comic in the summer. Did you see that little one-pager that we did?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. No,
so we got to see that at least.
Don and I shoot shit all the time.
Right. I think it was a 2-pager. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Okay, so Jay came in. Do you prefer reading the first issue or an arc?
I actually prefer reading the first and second issue, and there's a reason for that. Now, I'm not too sure if a lot of people go deep into sales and that type of stuff, but if you kind of think back when Generation X first came out, obviously a huge book. It was, the first kind of X team that was kind of, kids, almost like a Teen Titans Marvel take, if you will. Now, that first issue sold absolute gangbusters, but the second issue, and you can look this up online anywhere, but the second issue, it dropped drastically. So whether that was a case of people wanting to just get the first issue so they could hawk it later on, whether that was a case of just no interest in the first issue, then that's fine. But I feel like the follow-up is what really tells whether this sort of creator or creators can kind of string together a story so it makes some cohesive sense. I mean, Empire Strikes Back, for instance, it's the follow-up. Yeah. It's still the movie in Star Wars that I feel that people still get the most excited about, because the follow-up, it could have been the movie that just broke the camel's back, so to speak. So, and it could have been horrible, but it wasn't. So it's about, I think, those first two issues for me. But then, of course, I like reading an arc. Who doesn't love reading an arc? But lately, I've found myself really getting into miniseries, believe it or not. I feel like I'm a bit superhero fatigued at this point because I did the '90s thing. I collected all the comics in the '90s into the early 2000s, and I'm just a bit over it. I don't want to invest not only hard-earned dollars, but also like potentially 50 to 100 issues of my time into it. So, yeah.
Well, and I think, especially in comics, we've seen so much of it that it's just like, look, even if your take is kind of a new take, we've still kind of sort of seen it before in a lot of ways. And you also don't have to weed through to find, say, that Invincible or that that other new take where you're like, whoa, this is a whole other level, So
yeah.
I think I completely get you there. I feel you, and I mean, especially with indies, because for me, I mean, obviously you're not, but for me, I'm only reading indies at this point. Like that's just all my money goes to Kickstarters, and
Why only indies?
In all honesty, it's mostly a financial thing. It's just I only have so much money. I would rather support my brothers and sisters in arms and whatnot. And like you said, the superhero fatigue. There's so much non-superhero indie stuff that really is tapping into some interesting, fun realms. And so I would rather just kind of see where these people are going. And I always feel like I'm supporting somebody else's dream. Like it really feels like it's more than just a purchase. It's more than just a product. I'm helping someone kind of have their dream as much as they're doing that for me. I have no issue with the big two. I love Marvel. If I had the money to go and pick them up, my problem is I'm also a completionist, and there's
Don't
no
start collecting X-Men then, mate, because it's like
and
I think
I'm
it's
a huge
50
X-Men
different
fan.
series at this point.
And I'm a massive X fan, and that really is my issue. And so I can't do it. And you know what? I liken it to postal workers. They go fucking nuts because the mail never stops. And it's the same with this. There's always there's going to be a fucking issue every month. There's going to be 12 or like half a dozen to a dozen fucking titles across that realm. They're going to cross over each other. They're also going to cross over into the rest of the universe. And you're just like, I don't have the fucking money and I want as much of this as possible and I just can't do it. So it's easier to just be like, oh, you know what? Stephanie Menard came out with another issue of her Aeonian, which I absolutely loved. Great, I'll pick that up and I'll be able to read that and stuff like that, where I know that, even if I have to go back and read something, I'm probably just going to go back and read a couple issues. And I've got the whole mini series or the whole series. Like you're not getting a lot of these indies who are going into huge numbers. It's a lot of us actually are doing mini series and small arcs and trades and stuff. So it just becomes so much easier to deal with and to feast upon, so to speak. So that's my reason.
Yeah. Oh my God, the mail never stops. Sounds like something my wife would say. It doesn't stop. He's still talking to me.
It's so true, man. It's so bloody true. So for you, looking back on 2020, which was, for a lot of people, it really was. It was a rough year, but I felt like it wasn't a bad year for comics. As much as certainly there were some things that happened. Kickstarter did better than ever. There was so many indie books out there and happening and whatnot. Obviously, the big two, there was some pencil dropping there and whatnot. But I feel like it was still a really good year for comics. What's your kind of take on it, especially as someone who has obviously read a much wider array of what came out last year? What's your take on it looking back?
So there's a couple of thoughts about it. So I guess firstly, when we look at art as a medium, doesn't matter what type of art form it is, it's a very reactionist sort of medium. It reacts to political climates, social climates, in cases of COVID-19, definitely societal issues, those sorts of things. And I mean, if you go through your history, the best pieces of art come after the upheaval, the anarchy, the wars, all that type of stuff. I mean, all you need to do is look at, the 60s and 70s and the 50s in relation to how people felt after World War II and their kids and all that type of stuff, what their form of expressionism was. So there's that. I feel like comics as a medium has been sitting on this precipice very sort of nervously for a long time. And I feel like on the pro side of things, it's kind of forced publishers and creators to think about ways that they can sort of overcome COVID-19, how they can get their product out to different people. So there's that. I also am kind of enjoying the sort of anthologies that are coming off the back of COVID-19 and how different sort of creators sort of perceive COVID-19, what sort of story is being told, what narrative is being driven. So those sorts of things. So, yeah, lots of thoughts.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it was an awful lot to digest last year. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't so simple. Yeah. So, what would you say is kind of looking back at the year? Are there any particular titles that you really feel both mainstream and indie that kind of jump out at you that really kind of made the best of it and really caught your eye, so to speak?
Villainous through Mad Cave Studios is a good one.
Oh, Stoney is a great dude. Yeah, I've heard good things.
Yeah. It's been featured on my website a couple of times now, actually. So that's a good one. That's a nice, interesting take on sort of a subsect of a superhero genre that people have tried to do the Watchmen thing. They've tried to do sort of the deconstructing of what makes a hero and what doesn't. So I feel like that's a neat little take. Through Boom Studios, I really enjoyed King of Nowhere by W. Maxwell Prince and Tyler Jenkins. So that's a great one. There's just so much that comes across my desk.
Right.
I'm liked seeing the end of Milky, which is a indie comic that came out from a fellow by the name of Joshua Saxon. He's I've got nothing but appreciation and love for that guy because he's the first near when we first started. He was the first sort of creator that used words from my review as a means to sort of pitch and sell his comic book on Kickstarter. So yeah, that's a good one. It was nice seeing that one come to an end.
Milky is actually one I haven't read it yet, but it's what I kick my own ass about because when it hit Kickstarter, it came out of nowhere and it's like, oh, Milky, and I saw him talking about it and I'm like, man, I'm not even willing to look any further into it. The fucking name is Milky. Like, what are you even doing? And then, like, I have so many buddies around me, and they're just like, you are sleeping, bud. This is a fucking good title. It's like,
yeah,
shit, it's already over. Like, and so, that's one of those ones where you make a gut decision and your gut is dead fucking wrong. So I am excited. So I'm glad that you talked that one up because that's one that I'm probably going to jump away from Kickstarter for a second and throw a couple dollars at their website and try to pick that series up because I have heard really good things. You're not even close to the first guy to say that. What about with? Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, so for those watching, Milky is a 4-issue indie comic by a guy named Josh Saxon. I'm pretty sure you can pick up issues on his website. It's basically about this loser who lives in the UK. He's a milkman, hence Milky, and he's just out of high school. He's Indian by descent. His best pal is Asian by descent. and he's Milky, the protagonist. He's trying to figure out a way to tell this girl he sort of is in love with from high school that he likes her. However, aliens come. Aliens look like big honking dinosaurs, and who doesn't like extraterrestrial dinosaurs? So it's been fun. Yeah.
That sounds like fun. But I'm glad for that. That's really cool. What about with the some of the big boys? Were there any titles that really jumped out at you last year that really got to you?
I mean, not really. Not a whole lot.
No, that's a fair statement.
I like the imagery that's going on with Immortal Hulk, because the way I've always felt that the Hulk is a horror character. He is a horror character. His rights are owned by Universal, who hold all the Universal monsters rights. So he is a horror character. So the smart play of actually turning him into more of a horror-ish character was definitely that was good. I'm trying to think if any comes to mind, but I don't think many do. I love Cable. I will always love Cable. Cable is my guy. But I am not enjoying young Cable.
As soon as you started speaking, I was like, "Oh, there's a butt coming along."
Oh yeah, there's a butt coming. It's just, I'm just not. And while what Jonathan Hickman is overseeing with the X-Men and writing and all that type of stuff, project managing, if you will, while that is all well and good, there are so many missed opportunities that you can see in every issue. All the issues are fantastic. They're really enjoyable. But for me, a lot of Marvel is a lot of gloss. It doesn't really speak to me as a reader. And that's fine, because it's clearly not being written for me. It's clearly being written for a completely different person. But for me, the young Cable thing, no. Cable he's a time traveling warrior. He should have never been de-aged. If you asked old Cable, if he was in a meeting, fictionally speaking, if he was in a meeting, we're going to de-age you, Cable would have shot every single executive in the face. Like, he's just one of those characters that, and it also, the de-aging aspect, while it might be relatable for more people who are younger, it kind of just creates a option for them to re-explore stories that have already been told.
Yeah, to me, as also as an X fan, he was like this grizzled sergeant, like he just he had that feel to him, and so when you make him younger, those aspects kind of leave, and so
100%.
it just and so I have to, and I haven't read them, but the idea of hearing that, I'm just like, ooh, you better nail it, because I'm automatic, and that's never a place you want to start, where you pitch someone an idea for a character and they go, oh, that doesn't excite me. I really hope you do well with that, because I'm not 100% behind that. So it was the same as, and someone who did it well, I would say like with the MCU, when they first said, we're going to bring Chris Evans in as Captain America. And I was like, oh, Chris Evans at that time was more of a pretty boy, kind of did, sort of like funnier roles and all that. And I'm like, that's not Captain America. And then he did it, and I was like, oh, okay, mad respect, well done. It was the same with like, when you're talking about Heath Ledger, there was so much backlash beforehand with Heath Ledger's Joker, and then it happens. You're like, all right, okay, cool, you won that round, and certainly it's possible. But then you get things like this current Cable, where it's like,
yeah. See, the Heath Ledger thing, all of Australia was, behind him 100%. I don't think I know. I think I know of very few people in Australia who were not in his court for that. But I see
Bad
what you mean.
example.
Yeah. And, good on you, Chuck, talking ill of a dead guy.
What?
Great job.
No, but your boy brought it.
Mate, don't say RIP because it's just going to look bad.
I know, right? No, not at all. No, I mean, I wasn't expecting him to bring that level that he did, and he brought it. He absolute kudos. As someone who grew up on the Burton Batman and all that kind of stuff, in my mind, he completely erased that. I was like, oh shit. It was just such an amazing take, and so yeah, when you can do it right, oh, good on you, because looking at it at the time, it was very much kind of like, ooh, okay, this is all right, let's see what you do, So moving beyond the reviews for now, you're also a writer and publisher. Sorry, by the way, I didn't ask you this before, and I feel like a dick. Are you going to be okay for the hour or so, or do you have a time limit, or?
No, I'm all good for an hour. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, great. There's a private chat. If at any point you have to go, just let me know, and I can make that happen.
So good.
Perfect. Sorry about that, everybody. Chuck's bad. So you're also producing what sounds like a really cool idea for an anthology. It's called Producing the End, Producing the End of the World, right?
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So the idea came to me when I found this random picture online many years ago, where it's just basically sort of this person in a suit sitting on a post-apocalyptic landscape, just kind of almost like he's surveying the landscape, like he's responsible for it. So the idea of producing the end of the world is to provide a different take on the post-apocalyptic and apocalyptic genre, in a similar vein to what Love, Death and Robots did with the sort of science fiction genre in terms of what can be achieved, in terms of what the Animatrix did in terms of, fleshing out the world, understanding that yes, there's Neo and Morpheus and all that sort of bullshit, but then there's also more interesting characters and having to deal with sort of the quandary of what the Matrix is and all that type of stuff. So it's called Producing the End of the World. I'm sort of elbow deep in editing the submissions right now. So there's going to be about 22 stories in total. It's going to go straight to Kickstarter once we've got all our ducks in a row, once the art is done, once everything is done. And then once it's gone out on Kickstarter and people have all their books, it's going to be available on the Macroverse app. So, yeah.
Have you guys already chosen all of the stories that are going to be in?
All the stories are chosen. We got 130 writers submitted.
Wow.
And then 28 artists. So that was fun.
Yeah, right.
So having to weed that down a bit. It was interesting how when you look at the, post-apocalypse, what people feel is post-apocalypse, I got something like 12 stories about robots. So yeah. But then the couple of people that I think there's 2 robot stories I ended up with in choosing who were successful were really different takes on how robots can fit into war-torn sort of Earth. So weighting it down so that there was, the final people who had submitted was definitely a task, that's for sure.
Don was asking if David Pepos and Andy Nordvall are going to be on that.
That is a negative, Don. David does not need any more comic books. He does not need any more opportunities. He is on enough podcasts. So no, David 100 podcasts proposed is not going to be in this anthology.
that's a pretty fair take. He definitely has gotten his name out there. And actually, I was in a we just did the Cthulhu Invades Oz, which went over very well for us, and he ended up doing a forward for it. So yeah, man, he is everywhere.
No, Proposer's a good guy. He was one of the very first people I interviewed for the old format of my podcast. So, very generous guy with his time. Has a unique perspective on the comics industry, having written for different well-known outlets over in the US of A, and then sort of moving on to more of a creator path. He has a very interesting take on everything. He's very open to I guess feedback or people reaching out to him who are looking to get into that genre. So yeah, if there's 100 of you out there, thousands of you out there that want to all inbox David Propose, please do so. In all seriousness, though, David and I have sort of cultivated a bit of an online friendship as well. So yeah, he's good fun.
No, that's great. I love the kind of that back and forth sort of stuff. Wow. So how was it for you getting all those submissions? Like you said, were you expecting to make that kind of number? Like, was that something you were prepared for?
Hell no. I was thinking, let's do 20 stories total. I'll get maybe 20. I'll weed that down to 10, and then I might write a couple of extras and maybe get that up to an even 15 or 20. That's what I was thinking. I was not thinking that the pitch for the anthology, the information that I put on my website would evoke such a good response. So yeah, it's it was very surprising. I guess it sort of goes to speak of the power of the comic book community. I also didn't think I had as much reach as I thought. Yeah.
I was going to say that it's probably in equal parts your reach and your idea. Because certainly, I mean, anthologies, I think more and more a lot of us are going, hey, this is a great way to do something short and quick and get my name out there and network with a bunch of other creators and be a part of something bigger than myself. But also I find, like, when it's a really good idea, people get really excited and really, like I said, to go back to the Cthulhu Invades Oz we did, it just, people got so beyond that and so excited about that. It did well. It was so much fun, and we didn't, we really hoped it would do well, and it certainly it certainly did exactly or even more than we were hoping for. So yeah, man, I think it's very much also your idea, because producing the end really is like a cool idea. It's a fun idea. There's a lot of post-apocalyptic stuff going on, but anytime you can kind of twist that and take a new take, give a new take on it, is huge. Yeah. And you gave them that opportunity. So good on you.
Yeah. We had some amazing pitches that came through. There was there's a pitch from a writer that just really spoke to me. That without being too spoilerish, it's a story about a gay man who has sort of issues with his father, and then it's about coming to well, not really coming to terms, but sort of reconnecting with his father in a way just before the world is about to end. So in terms of different takes, in terms of what I was going for, that was a story that just that really hit the mark for me.
Nice. I like that. And one thing I'm starting to hear from things that you enjoy and whatnot is that diversity definitely seems to be something that you really enjoy and whatnot. Is that something that you kind of look for and are excited by, or do you think it's just something that should be a part of it anyways, or where's that?
I mean, diversity in sort of thought, form, and opinion, and ideas. Well, I guess that comes to thought, doesn't it?
Yeah, right.
So I think I sort of look forward to the day where we don't even have to have the diversity discussion anymore, where it is just it is what it is. That is like I look forward to the time where people aren't saying things like, "Oh, my favorite African American actor is." Why is that? Why you're not saying who is my favorite white Caucasian actor is? You're making a point by saying my favorite African American character is this, almost like it's like a badge of honor because you watch something that a black person is in. It's really not. I look forward to I guess the day. It may not happen in my lifetime, granted, but I sort of look forward to the day where we don't feel the need to sort of make those, there's certain distinctions where it's just, the best, the winner of the Ringo Award for Best Artistry is, trans, artist, blah, 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 who's known for blah, blah, blah. It shouldn't be that. It should just be artist, this person. But at the same time, I feel like I do understand that, people who aren't, straight, white, et cetera, do feel like they're not getting as much of recognition by being recognized as, as what they are. So, it's a fun discussion.
Well, no, I fully agree with you, actually. You and I are very much on the same point there. It's funny because the first book I put out, it starred an Asian American man. But I felt like as a white guy, it wasn't something where I could come out and be like, hey, I'm making this book and it's so important that this man is Asian American and stuff. And I knew that I couldn't do that. And certainly I can't tell that story because that's not something that I've had to deal with. So it was more just like, well, I mean, I really hope that people are able to connect to it, and I really hope that all audiences are kind of able to touch on it, and then, and good. But it's not something that I can stress because it is what it is, and that's kind of the way we need it to be.
I guess there's something to, I mean, you see, and, the golden rule, don't read the comments, but, we always do because we're all curious bastards. So, and, when you do read the comments, there's always someone saying, oh, a story shouldn't need to be about someone's gender identity. Well, I mean, that's not your decision to make for this person. The gender identity is ingrained in their DNA. It is who they are. It has informed their ideas, their experiences, their everything, I guess their trials in life, their sort of their relationships, the way they think. I mean, who are you? Who are you to really be saying that that a story shouldn't be about gender? I mean, that's their story. If that's their emotional truth, then speak your truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, Martin, I'm not sure I've heard that quote before.
No, never.
Right? I have a dream. No, I might need to go into the history of that one a little bit. I'll Google it when we're done here. So moving forward into what for you? What does 2021 look like? Are there any trends that you kind of see coming up? And let's go with that one first. Are there any trends that you see or you feel are going to be coming up in comics over this next year?
I'm really not looking forward to all the COVID response sort of comics. I mean, probably sounds funny because I was already saying that that I'm enjoying sort of the anthologies that came out during COVID, but I don't really want to see years and years of bloody, COVID comics. That doesn't interest me in any way, shape, or form. What did you mean by trends coming up? Could you expand on that?
Well, I mean, certainly that could be one of them where we're probably going to get a lot of plague stories and that kind of stuff. But do you think so I guess for me, I'm looking forward, and I felt like when all of this kind of started, my thought was, I bet that we have two kind of big trends that are going to happen, and it's those that take a real hard look at a lot of these emotional issues that we're having to deal with.
Mm.
And then on the other side, we're going to get super absurdist shit that is just way the fuck out there because people do not want to think about it.
Mm.
So those are kind of the trends that I imagined. And so far, I'm not totally sure I'm right on that, but that was kind of my take on it. So, or hell, do you even look for trends, or do you ever kind of consider that, or do you just kind of go with what's happening?
I kind of look at sort of what has informed the decision that a creator has made. What narrative they're sort of trying to spin. In terms of trends coming up, I think that one that's going to be unavoidable is the discussion around class, the discussion around systemic issues in society, because everyone's not happy with certain rich people jumping the queue to get COVID jabs and all that type of stuff. So that is inherently displays an issue with societal. There's systemic issues right there, which just really go down to the core of what a society deems acceptable, what politicians that society has elected deem acceptable, and really how we allow these people to continue to preside over the potential sort of downfall or preceding a downfall of a society. I feel like there's lots of opportunity. I mean, especially in your own country, to talk about. There's always going to be the ongoing issue of race. I feel like that's going to always be an issue, unfortunately, because human beings are shit. But I feel like, if we saw more, like you said, absurdist stuff to kind of get us away from the seriousness of what life has been, that would be great. If we saw absurdist sort of comics that provide a narrative on what has been going on and potentially how we can avoid it. That'd be nice too.
Yeah, right. No, I feel you. We got a bunch of people, by the way, jumping in. Clinton Farley, who is a local to me artist, he said, "You guys have me so motivated now. I've been so down, not doing any shows from this corona apocalypse." And that is a rough thing. I mean, I know Clinton and I have, because we're both in Texas, we've hung out at a lot of shows together. Really solid dude. Love his work, by the way, guys. Check out Clinton's work, please. He has so much amazing stuff, and I would hate for him to ever feel like he had to stop. But brother, I love what you do, man. So keep it up, man. But that does bring up the idea of cons. How close do you think, in Australia at least, it is for that machine to start back up again? Yeah.
So we've got a I believe it's next month, we've got a pop-up con by Oz Comic Con. So they're pretty much the biggest con in Australia. They're the closest thing we'll ever sort of get to a San Diego Comic Con. So by your standards, they're a small con. The way they're doing that is it's a pop-up con. There's no guests from outside of state. There's no guests from outside of country. It's just people that are in sort of New South Wales, the state that we're in, which is the state that Sydney's in. And so all the creators sort of getting together at that site, and so that they can, have a good time, hopefully.
Take care, Don. Thank you for popping in, buddy. We both appreciate it. Jack. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sure if we were able to roam around in Chuck's head, we would have pure escapism. Mate, if your head's anything like mine, it is not escapism. It is complete chaos and mayhem. So we're actually sort of starting a thing where we're going to be doing Q&As sort of monthly. That's the aim anyway, where we're sort of getting like an established creator on, and we're starting that with David Papose, funnily enough, next week. So for all the shit talk I've done of him, it's going to be fun. It's an opportunity for people to sort of engage with that, creators to engage with that, to ask questions that you normally probably wouldn't have the time to ask in a con setting. So we're sort of doing stuff a little different, and I don't really see bloggers like comic book bloggers like myself doing anything like this. So it's it's good. I'm really enjoying sort of the digital cons that have come out.
Yeah.
So that opportunity for, I guess, creators and publishers to really engage more with their people.
So that brings up something good. I'm really glad you mentioned that. What do you think then, as someone who has enjoyed them? And over the last year, I've been on an awful lot of them, and I've had a blast with them. They have been a lot of fun, especially since, for most of us, it was all we could do. So why not get out there and hop on? But what do you think is something that they should consider or be trying to add to these digital conventions to kind of take it to that next level?
I mean, I think DC's, excuse me, I think the DC con that they did, the digital one, I think that really set the golden standard. So I don't think I'm necessarily saying that anyone should have to do something to that level, because they just don't have the money to do it. But I feel like interactivity should be a good one. Giving people the opportunity to ask questions, not just do a presentation. Some of them have just been that. Some of them have been about interactivity and, fans being able to pay money to have a 5-minute powwow with, bloody, ex actor. So I think interactivity is one. I think what they need to consider is dissemination of information, and whether they're at the stage where their information is interesting.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have an update, if your comic book is it's been delayed and all those sorts of things, then why are you having a digital con? Like, have something meatier that people can chew into in terms of content. So I think just thinking about the right time. Is it the right time for publishers to be doing digital cons? If they don't have much to show other than just give an update, then why are they doing one?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, what I'm hearing about New York City Comic Con, and I'm very excited about what they're saying, is basically moving forward, they want to have that digital aspect as a regular part of their Comic Cons. Yeah. Which I think is actually a really smart move. There's a lot of us. I mean, even for yourself, you're like, man, the likelihood of you going to New York City Comic Con, it's not that great. But being able to still be a part of it on some level, all the way across on the other side of the world, that's got to be a really cool, a really fun take and something that you can really do. So, how do you feel? Do you think that that's something that would help a lot of these cons if they tried to, moving forward, they had both this digital and physical aspect?
So I worry about I think the question there is price. How much are they going to charge people? And is that price legitimate for the experience that's being rendered? So I feel like those cons that have done, like in the last 12 months, they've done like, $50 to chat to William Shatner, or, $50 to talk to this person or this person. I feel like that they need to understand that you're not providing the same experience. You're not. It's not the same experience. It's a different experience. You're not there in person with them. You can't see them, touch them, smell them. Although I don't know why you'd want to smell them. And it's, like it or not, it is a different experience. And I feel like that publishers, cons, studios need to understand that. I think that Disney underwent a huge sort of learning curve when they released Mulan straight to digital, and expected everyone $29 to pay for it and things like that. And there was this discussion of, well, you pretty much, if you take the wife and the kids out, you're spending $80 anyway. So $29 at home isn't that bad, right? Yes, but you're getting the experience if you go out. So I get that logic, but I think that it needs to look at sort of the experience that's being handed out to a potential consumer, and does the price make sense for the experience that consumer is getting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely feel that. I think that's a smart take on it. So moving forward into 2021, what can we see from you specifically, besides producing the end
specifically?
Yeah.
So producing the end of the world, we're sort of aiming to wrap things up by sort of June, July. So fingers crossed we'll go to a Kickstarter in September. So there's that. So that's hopefully we're gonna hit the goal. So how much that goal is going to be, watch this space. I have a comic book in the works called Half Cells, which is the best pitch I can give someone in terms of tone. Is imagine if you mixed Doom Patrol and a sort of a futuristic detective noir story set in it, and the whole thing is a science experiment, then that is what Half Cells is about. And then I'm working on a fantasy meets horror, which is going to be a 4-part series, so 4 issues with Aileen Orosion, who has previously worked on a couple of things with Top Cow. So that for me is what I'm most looking forward to, because it's more of a collaboration. Yeah. As good as the guys are that are working on Half Cells, and the art is amazing, it's almost like an employer-employee relationship. I've done the work, now I need you guys to do this work, then I pay you. And so while that is a good learning experience, a good sort of project management experience as well, it's not as fun as where I'm completely collaborating with Aileen on this horror fantasy comic, which I'm looking forward to that getting done.
And you got me really excited, by the way, with the fantasy aspect. Yeah, Sam, it's actually, we are talking about comics. Usually, if we're on my show, we're talking comics. I had a professional movie stuntman in here not too long ago, so now everyone's like, well, so anything can happen, right? Well, I guess technically, yeah. I did open that door, fair enough. But yeah, we're mostly going to be trying to talk about comics here. Well, that's really exciting. I definitely want to be able to check all that out coming soon. As a fan, is there anything coming up that you're excited for? Any series that you want to see wrap up, or any projects that you think have some really cool pitches that you're excited to see how they nail it?
I'm really looking forward to Cullen Bunn's Shadow Man. His work just keeps on getting better and better, and the man is a sadistic, psychopathic, fucked up genius, and I love everything that he puts out. So I get more out of his horror stuff, because I feel like that is where he really taps into his most creative DNA. So I'm really looking forward to his take on Shadow Man, which that is through Valiant Entertainment, and I believe it's either next month or April. So I'm really looking forward to that. I believe Valiant Entertainment are really expecting this one to really take off, because they're doing sort of snippets of different scenes in every issue that they've released. So there were snippets in the most recent Bloodshot, which is coming out for you guys tomorrow. There was snippets in the Savage issue 1 as well. So they're really doing everything they can to make that a success. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Yeah.
That's awesome. No, I'm really glad to hear that. Um, you know what? I've just had such a great time. I'm not sure. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Is there anything else you wanted to bring up? Because I feel like I've exhausted a lot of my questions. But if there's something you do want to discuss, I'm still very open to that. I'm having a great time.
So I see a lot of people online talking about things like time management, and those sorts of things, and how do
Okay.
we really manage time and all that type of stuff. So you have a couple of projects, Chuck. How do you manage your time?
Well, that's wow. Okay, that's really good. Not great, to be honest, right now. I don't. You know what? Don't tend to handle stressful situations very well. And so
Wrong
that kind of,
industry.
pardon me.
Wrong industry.
Well, okay. You know what though? I'm better. I find I'm better when I'm under the gun. So if someone's like,
Okay.
"Hey, you need to have this," I've told this story a million times, but I still love it. A buddy of mine from Antarctic Press, he wanted to do something with me, and he said, "Hey, will you do this piece for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, sounds great." I said, what do you want to do?" And he's like, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, why don't you get in touch with Antarctic, see what they want from us?" So he gets back to me in about an hour. He calls me back and he says, "So they want a 5-page short from us for their science fiction anthology." I was like, "Great, no problem, we can do that." And he said, "Well, yeah, but the problem is they want it by Monday," and this was on Thursday. And I said, "Okay, like they want the script by Monday?" And they're like, "No, they want the whole thing. Do you think you can do that?"
Pitch the script, everything.
Yeah. They wanted it done. They wanted a done piece by Monday, and this was on Thursday. And I was like, "It's not about if I can do it. Can you handle it?" And he said, "Well, it
Mm.
depends on when you can get to the script." And I said, "Look, man, you'll have the script in the morning. Like I'll just stay awake tonight until my 5 pages are done, and then you can go to town. So if you think you can handle that," and he's like, "Oh yeah, if you're gonna do that, I'll do it." So we did it. We made it happen, and sure enough, it came out really well. We actually got a really good review, and I was very proud of it. But yeah, I tend to work better under the gun. In this environment, like during the Texas blizzard, I kind of mentally shut down and just had a hard time. But I do find that as far as time management, what I would say is make small goals for yourself.
Mm.
Like make things, because I find the more you're able to get done, it almost becomes addictive. Where
Mm.
it's like, okay, I got this thing done. I'm still feeling the flow. Now I can jump to this and to that. And so if you give yourself something manageable to be able to finish in that time, then for me personally, I find that I'm then able to jump and do even more and get even more accomplished because I've finished something and I feel accomplished. I feel better by it. So that's kind of my trick. What about for you?
I mean, for me, I feel like it's similar to what you do, breaking it down into smaller goals. And, but I feel like, yes, do that, but you need to reward yourself as well. So I feel like a lot of people that, like creators, especially in this industry, they've got a lot of things on their plate. They've got stuff like, work, family, and also trying to juggle creating a comic so that they can hopefully finally release it one day. So I feel like mental health takes a hit straight off the bat as soon as you start doing this, whether it's me reviewing a comic book, maintaining a website, which is almost a full-time job in itself, plus my day job, is straight away my mental health is taking a hit. At the same time, if you're a comic book creator, you have a job, full-time job, you have a family, you're taking time away from the family to create this thing, which you're hoping will kick off, later down the track. Your mental health is taking a hit. I feel like if we're going to learn anything from COVID or in general in life, should be an equal sort of balance, counterbalance in terms of if you're going to take time away from the family, if you're going to work on this comic book, this review, this film, whatever it is, then you need to reward yourself by achieving those goals. It shouldn't just be let's segment this into different goals. Then when goal 1 is done, I go to goal 2, and then goal 3, and then goal 4. Because at the end of the day, it's still a large goal. You're just segmenting it. So if you're going to, make a commitment to write 2 pages or write half a review or, film a scene in a film or something like that, then recognize that you've accomplished something and reward yourself for it. So, and do it by reward. I mean, do something that's going to sort of activate the positive pleasure centers of your brain. So, and I mean, I'm talking PG rated pleasure centers. So, whether that's time with the family, whether if you think to yourself, okay, if I achieve 2 pages tonight, then I have an hour before bed, then I have an hour I can go gaming or streaming or what have you. So understand that there's sort of this kind of comfortable / uncomfortable counterbalance with your work and trying to create art and things like that, and understand that don't do things just because everyone else is doing them and it's highly competitive in the comics industry. Do things because you want to do it, but reward yourself and really give credit to yourself where credit is due.
Yeah. No, I totally feel you there. And actually, that reminds me of a question I did have that I didn't bring up earlier, and that is, why at this time in your life did you decide to jump in and do something like Soda and Telepaths and really get into a more basically getting into less of a passive part of the comics field and more actually being right in there? What made you sort of make that leap?
Originally, Soda and Telepaths was going to be just a blog that I was just going to do myself, that was going to sort of I would just do reviews about like X-Men and mutants and science fiction and all that type of stuff and 90s culture. But Jack Napier. We can go R-rated if you want, man, but it's you watching. So from there, I got someone who wanted to say, I want to write for your website. So he started, and then I was approached by an editor of a comic book company who shall not be named because of reasons. And also Mad Cave Studios COO Mark London hit me up, and this is kind of just as their sort of first 2 series had launched. So from there, it's just kind of like, oh, they're sending me comic books for free to report on, review on. That's great. Let's get more of this.
Yeah.
And eventually, it sort of snowballed to where I'm at now. It's come to a point where you sort of start to think about, how do I want my website to look? How do I want my blog to look? How do I want to interact with people? And for me, a couple of months ago, I realized, there's a lot of people always, liking my stuff, sharing my stuff, whether it's me or one of my contributors writing. I've sort of created this community a little bit, this Soda and Telepaths community where people are engaging with, and I feel like that's sort of what I've created, a blog that people can sort of read and review, where they see reviews on from creators that they actually personally know, and then other indie creators can feel like they have a bit more of a voice, and and here we are.
Good. I think you're really, I don't know, man. You're really making something of it, which I think is terrific. Did you find that there was a point where it was almost like a point of no return, where you're like, man, I'm already this far into it. I don't know that I want to. It's almost like giving up at that point is more work than just continuing and going with it. Do you feel like you've hit that point?
So about a year ago, I kind of hit this slump where I'm just kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too much work. I'm not enjoying it anymore. And my wife, God love her, she said to me, no, you can't stop. You're already this far in. You've got, at that point, 6 people writing for me. You've got this following on Twitter. There's people out there with blogs who can't even get that. If you stop doing it, you're going to regret it. So that was kind of a turning point for me and made me sort of think about different ways that I can sort of create content for that people want to see, hopefully. And it was kind of, now I'm at that turning point where I can't stop.
Good. Well, good.
Good for you and everyone else on the review.
That's very true. But
all you fuckers.
Do you feel like that speech also helped to push you into actually making your own books and going further with it, where you're like, hey man, I don't, now I can actually perhaps consider taking the plunge and really making it happen? Or
yeah, maybe subconsciously. I think it was just a point. We're in the middle of COVID. My day job is a work from home job, and it just got too much. There was no. It felt like that I was just work, which goes back to my point of just splitting up the larger goal. Doesn't work. I've tried it. It does not work. I mean, it might work if you're a workhorse. Then go for it. Go for gold. But I guarantee you'll burn out at some point. So I was at that stage. I was burnt out. I wasn't rewarding myself. I wasn't giving myself due sort of credibility for what I'd done, what I was doing, the types of people that were, and the amount of people that were visiting the site. So, yeah, look after your mental health. Look after you and yours. It's my thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely feel you, and it is something that I see. Like, I mean, you said you're only in about 3 years. This is my 5th year into, and I have seen way too many people drop off in my time. So yeah, you couldn't have hit it more on the head. You need to keep your eye on that, because it's way too easy for people to just go, cool, I'm done. And man, there's so many amazing ideas out there and so many cool new takes on things and all that kind of stuff. And so being able to finish those thoughts and getting those little minis and graphic novels and all that completed and out in the world and whatnot, it's a big deal. And having that completion also, such a weight off your chest. Like, I got that idea out there. And you don't immediately have to go, cool, now what? If that's how you do it, great, that's terrific. But being able to finish it and then go, cool, I'm going to bask in this. And I think for me, at least, that's been part of the problem. Part of that basking, part of that enjoying was conventions, because being able to see someone face to face and being able to sell to them and see that almost instant gratification of, oh, this is cool, I really like this, it was huge. And so not having that, I've found is very difficult. And so it means that you kind of have to pivot and you have to think about things a little more differently in order to still kind of get that. So certainly finding the thing that makes you happy and that allows you to keep doing it, it's big.
Yeah, there's that. And I feel like because our biggest form of communication is social media, love it or hate it, the social media is just one giant clusterfuck. And you need to sort of understand the differences in how you're being successful in talking to people in Twitter, in Instagram, and Facebook. So, and you need to use that to your advantage. So if it's Twitter, then there may be a way that you communicate with people that works better for you. In Instagram, there might be a way, if you're releasing like a comic book, for instance, showing you might just get better feedback by posting like a panel that's in progress, or like a video of you drawing or something like that, or coloring. And I think you just communication. You just need to think about things smarter. Don't feel like you need to, share things to like 10,000 different comic book groups on Facebook. You just need to find what works best for you. And that might be a matter of talking to your base, talking to people who actually sort of consume your stuff. They need find out, why are they checking you out still? What is that thing? Why do they keep coming back? I mean, drop into their DMs and ask them like, why? What is it? What do you want to see more from me? So,
I love that idea though of just full on DMing a fan and just being like, why do you even read my shit?
Well, it probably works better for me because I, do reviews and such. It's more like, I mean, there's other ways to go about it. You can do polls on Twitter, like, what do you guys want to see from me? This, or this? What do you want to see more of? And, tap into that base. Social media. It's
well, and I would say that the other side of it is also what you're doing. Reviews are huge because first off, certainly you elicit that initial, hey, I saw this and this is how I feel. But even in how people respond to your reviews tells people, will tell you what you're doing right, maybe what you're doing wrong. Because look, you could, you or I could come and review a book and completely shit on it. But it's just as easy that fans come in and go, yeah, we don't agree with that. This is how we feel, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, cool. Well, I appreciate that guy was willing to say, say how he felt and all that. But these are my fans. That's what they want. Cool. I'm gonna aim in that direction. So
I guess at the same time with that, if you're gonna shit on a book, fine, but don't tag in the creator because I feel like that's just a dick move.
No, I totally agree. Yeah.
I see all the people. I've seen people, well, not all the time anymore. It doesn't happen as much in my network, but when I first started, you see people that do it, and then they complain, and it's just kind of like, dude, you started this fire. Like it's if that artist goes off at you because you absolutely took a dump on their book, and you tag them in, they fall within their rights to, say what they think about you.
No, absolutely. And I found, so the first time my first book was reviewed, and again, it's my first book. It's not perfect, not close, but there was some good reviews. And then there was one that was rougher. It still wasn't a bad review. Pardon me. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't you. But it was a rougher review.
Like a setup.
Right? So this Soda and Telepaths, they completely shit on me. No. But it was a rougher review. And I was like, okay, cool. You know what? It actually helped me to be able to look at my book from a different angle and whatnot. I didn't necessarily agree with everything they said, but it did allow me to take another look at it. But I knew the person who was running that site, and they were like, I noticed you didn't share that review. And I was like, yeah? Like, well, why not? I'm like, because your guy kind of shit on me a little bit. He's like, okay, but we talked about your book. And I'm like, and that's lovely, and I appreciate it, but it's not something that I necessarily want to point at and say, hey, look what these guys did. So I feel like it's well within your rights. I sent it to you to review. They were not rude at all, but it certainly wasn't something that I wanted to put a spotlight on. So it just felt like it's out there. If their audience, however their audience takes it, that's fine because I rolled the dice, and it didn't do as well as I was hoping. That's fine, but I don't feel like I have to then say, hey, look what these guys said about my book. I'm not proud of what was said about my book. How do you feel about that?
It's an interesting thing. I feel like reviewers are just gonna do it. There's not a whole lot you can control from it. I guess what you can control is for me, I'm focusing on the controllables that can be, your actions, your feelings, and all those sorts of things. And I guess when you do get a shitty review, you can, first instinct, fuck this guy, blah 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 blah, on Twitter or Facebook or what have you. But you can also take a step back and look at the more constructive elements or what the reviewer is trying to say, and learn from that and take the bits in it that have some justification to it. So it's it's subjective at the end of the day. All reviews are subjective, and I feel like if anyone ever gets a shitty review, then I feel like that for the most part come from Soda and Telepaths, but we have done some negative reviews, but then we don't tag in the creators when we share it, because that's kind of the online version of shitting on someone's front lawn. So I just take what you can from it in a positive light, try and find the positives in the negative, try and grow from it. Yeah, that's the only.
I will say for the creators out there, if you do get someone to review your book, because it's not always easy to get someone to talk about your stuff, please, for the love of God, share it. Support these people. They took the time to read your book and go over it, especially if they had nice things to say about it, and they had show it off. I think a lot of us get a little too lazy with that, and we go, oh cool, they had nice things to say, thank you, bop, bop, and they walk along, and it's like, no. They introduced their audience to you. The least you can do is introduce your audience to them, and then say, hey, look, these guys, they did me a solid. They were really nice about the book. Obviously, hopefully they enjoyed it on some level, honestly. And so because of that, let's give them some love. So my thing to creators is, if someone says something nice about your book, fucking share it. Show it off on your socials. Get it out there a little bit. Give some love back to these reviewers, because really there's I find for reviewers it's tough to get some of that love sometimes, because you are critically going over people's works, and you're creating your own audience, and it would be really nice if, while you're doing a favor for them, they kind of added to that and helped with that.
The thing is as well that the way that SEO works is it's based on what people are typing in. And if you're an indie creator, people aren't searching for your book, especially if you're a new indie creator. They're not searching for you. They're not searching for your book. The only reason they are is because they probably heard from you that you've got a review up. So if a reviewer like myself is talking about, John X, about John X's new indie comic, and it's a brand new comic, I'm, as much as I'm typing up a good review and all those sorts of things, I am posting a dead link. It's never going to get me anywhere. And I feel like creators need to understand that. I've just spent, an hour, 2 hours out of my day typing up that review. And it's not going to get me any traction. It's certainly not going to rank in Google because no one's searching for you.
Yeah.
And all I'm going to probably get is maybe 50 to 100 clicks if I'm lucky. So I think there needs to sort of be that understanding of how the online review system works on the creator angle, and goes back to your point, fucking share the shit. Myself, we've got a Discord, Soda and Telepaths Discord channel. That Discord channel, I've started this thing where if you're a member, if you're a creator, then you get one review a year. So guaranteed one review a year. That's all you have to do. Join the channel, get one guaranteed review a year, and then that gives that helps the growth of our community, but it also helps you out yourself. So it's back to what you were saying before, which I think fundamentally is just give and take.
Yeah, and hey guys, that's actually a really good deal. You know what I mean? Like, go check out Soda and Telepaths on Discord. I think that's a really cool thing that you guys are doing. So many people are working hard to get reviews, and that's a nice, easy way of doing it. And again, you're sharing in that love. So I think that's absolutely huge. Share that around, guys. Yeah, man. I think we've done really good here. We've really kind
Yeah,
of got everything out.
right. Yeah,
I
what's
really
that?
appreciate you showing up. Do you have any final words before we head out today? Anything else people should go check out besides, of course, Soda and Telepaths?
Um, I would say just really just support creators, support indie creators if you can. Uh, think twice about who you're supporting and where the art comes from. Oh,
Yeah, I had to say goodnight to the lady. She's got work in the morning.
so I think just really support indie creators and art and just share the love if you can.
Totally feel you. Thank you so much for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and what to look out for?
So you can follow us on Twitter at Soda Telepaths. You can also go to our website directly, which is sodaandtelepaths.com, or you can search for Soda and Telepaths on Discord. If you just go to our Twitter, though, all the links are there. So that is how you can find us.
Okay,
And not send me any dick pics.
and at least try to make them tasteful, guys. If you are gonna send some, put a little bow tie on them or something like.
Yeah, like a hat, like a top hat, or
Little spectacle, like
a
walking
skirt,
cane, whatever. Dress them up like Mr. Peanut, whatever you decide to do.
That's it.
Oh, thank you so much, Jay. Thank you guys, all of you guys out there who came in and shared the love with us and everything. We really do appreciate it a lot. Guys, we're gonna have another great show next week. I can't for the fucking life of me remember who it is, but I know that we're booked up until April. So we've got a bunch of really cool people showing up, lots of great creators. We're going to keep teaching you as much as possible, keep going into those processes, and keep learning as much as we can about comics. So thank you so much, guys. My name's Chuck. I give a fuck. Take care of yourselves, and thank you so much for showing up.